Welcome to this episode of Great Practice, Great Life. And today we have a very special guest. She was a fantastic speaker at our summit in 2022. She's an in-demand speaker, facilitator, coach, and she deals with something that lawyers just are used to. And consequently, they don't develop terrific skills around this. And so today we have Megan Hunter from the High Conflict Institute, and we're going to talk about why it's all your fault. So welcome, Megan. Thanks for being here today. I appreciate you being here.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure. I'm so grateful to be on your show.
Thank you. Thank you. So you as a recovering litigator, which is a joke for a lot of my friends, I am a recovering litigator. When I get around all of our Atticus cousins and friends, I have to admit that I miss litigation.
Oh, interesting. You're one of those.
Yeah, I do. And I miss the negotiations. I miss the mediations. Sometimes I miss the trial work. I don't miss the research. I don't miss the lies. I don't miss some of the things that occur in the litigation machine, let's call it. But the one thing I really learned as a litigator was I was a badass fighting with another lawyer. But when I went back to the office and I had to correct my receptionist for being late, I was the biggest wimp in the world. And so learning how to manage conflict and when to have certain conversations, how to have certain conversations, and have to have skills. As lawyers, we're trained to be advocates in one specific area. But our skill level, when we go other areas of our life outside of the courtroom, outside just into life, we think those skills work or we don't use those skills. So it's such you and I could probably talk for a week straight. So I just want to say thank you for the work that you're doing on behalf of myself.
Of course.
and all of my colleagues and all of the practice advisors and coaches at Atticus, because this is a blind spot that most lawyers will never, ever, ever see as a blind spot. So before we get into the blind spot, how did you get here? How did you end up being the co-founder of the High Conflict Institute and being an in-demand coach, advisor to people on managing conflict? How did you end up here?
Well, it's a kind of a fascinating long journey, but the very beginning of it was being born. Just kidding. I joke about it, but honestly, if you look at it realistically, there's conflict your entire life, and we're so ill prepared to deal with it. But I was a family law specialist, or the family law specialist for the Arizona Supreme Court for several years, and that's where I got fascinated in this concept of high conflict, because in the divorce world and family law world, there's quite a bit of knowledge around high conflict. We know that a small percentage of the cases in family law are those in being litigated in the courtroom because everyone else is out mediating or settling them on their own in some fashion. So I would talk to the judges in chambers as part of my job, and all over our state of Arizona. And there was this common complaint and it really matched the lawyer's complaint and the mediators and the therapists in family law. It was this thing called high conflict, and we don't know what to do with them. We don't know what they're back in court all the time. It's always someone else's fault. There's tons of allegations, and we just don't know what to do. We can't wait to get off the family bench, get onto criminal or civil so that we don't have to deal with this, right? And I'm like, look, there's so many smart people in the world dealing in family law. This is their profession. And yet I'm looking at data, actual data, what we do with parents that are in this high conflict category, and it seems like nothing helps. So, and it's where a lot of licensure complaints come from. So I just made it my mission to see if anyone could understand this. And I came across this guy who was really unknown at that point, and his name was Bill Eddy, and he was sort of a brainiac genius, licensed clinical social worker and a family law attorney. And he kind of put the pieces together about the high conflict personality concept. And I had him train our judges in Arizona, came back, trained to have him train some custody evaluators, and thought I'd have about 30 people. And I had about 200. I had to close the doors at 200.
Wow.
And it was lawyers, judges, mediators, legislators, domestic violence advocates, you name it, across the board. And I realized that it wasn't, no one knew who he was, but the topic was hot, hot, hot. And it was meant that was a problem for everyone, this area. So that's how I got in. And then it turns out that, well, we started the institute to do training, and it started in family law. But we quickly realized that all those high conflict, clients also have jobs elsewhere.
I see this in two levels, and maybe you can help me on this. So one level is what is a high conflict person?
Okay.
And then the second level is, what if I'm starting to develop skills to just deal with conflict, where do I go? So let's talk about first what a high conflict person looks like and sounds like to you as somebody who studies them.
Okay. So there's a basic definition, and if it's a pattern of behavior, right? And it might not look like at the beginning what we think it will. And so you're interviewing that new attorney that may be coming into your firm, or a paralegal. Doesn't matter who it is. Like I said, equal opportunity. And at first, there's typically a lot of charm. Even if it's not over the top charm, it can be just, wow, this person's really nice. I like them a lot right off the bat. And later that can really flip on you. And what you see over time is those dividing of teams, or just yelling, unmanaged emotions. So when you look at the behavior pattern of an individual that's troubling you, you might notice that there's a lot of unmanaged emotions. So when something, and I use this little phrase, I've started this recently, when something doesn't go their way, right? So you and I, we like things to go our way, right?
Yes.
But when it doesn't, we can adapt, or we can manage our emotions. For them, they can't. When something doesn't go their way, when something doesn't go as expected, they get mad, or they cry, or they blow up, or they yell, whatever. So that's unmanaged emotions. Extreme behaviors. They might do something that's kind of out of the ordinary.
Yeah, it's interesting because as you're going through this list, I'm not only going through attorneys I know, employees I know, bad behaviors I've done, friends that I'm no longer friends with because of, you're either with me or against me mindset. And, I just saw this narcissistic behavior. And as you're describing, this is a high conflict individual. It's an individual that in this particular situation was married once, no children, has a girlfriend, can't get along with a girlfriend. And if she doesn't do what he wants, the way he wants, he screams at her.
Yep.
And then I see passive aggressive behaviors where if you don't do what I want, then I'll behave this way because my screaming didn't work. So yeah, and that's one interesting thing about this is that you can be high conflict and not yell.
Yes, because there may be just undermining behaviors. And I think when we talk about unmanaged emotions, we do think of just yelling, but there are other ways of having unmanaged emotions. And there are some who you're just always walking on eggshells around them because you're afraid they're going to yell, because you're afraid they're going to cry all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Or just be depressed, or if you say the wrong thing, they're going to get upset. And so it comes, there's a range of all of these, but the key markers are most people in the world to have healthy relationships and get along with people and have healthy conflict, is you have to be able to manage your emotions and have reasonable behaviors, moderate behaviors, and have flexible thinking instead of all or nothing thinking. So these are all the opposites. So this is what we teach. I guess our skills are what help you get people from one of those extremes over to the to the good parts, right? So the healthy parts. So instead of being an all or nothing thinker, where there's one reason for the problem, probably it's all your fault, and there's one solution for the problem, and it's my way or the highway. And they just don't think in terms of options and just flexibility and thinking through, wow, there could be another reason for this, or there could be two opposite things that are true at the same time.